Here's the obligatory opening shot establishing that we're at 3640 Westcliff. And today we're going to be bringing the irrigation system online. And that's going to involve the possibility of some screen cleaning and testing zones one by one, and potentially having to clean heads or even repair lines or wires to the various valves. The design of our system is a distributed valve system. So there's kind of a main trunk of water that runs like a horseshoe around the property up both sides of the driving areas, and then basically having off that main line valves at intervals that each, as they're opened, are connected to a set of local sprinklers, a zone. And part of the challenge of a distributed system, 27 Live, by the way, is an example of a concentrated system. That's where you run the water to one place at, or by the house. All the valves then are right there in one place for all the zones. And then you go from there with individual lines to every zone. And you can imagine one of the cons of that. The pros are that it's really easy to think about, where are my valves and do maintenance on them because it's all right there in a cluster. But the negative is instead of just running wires from a central controller out to the valves wherever they are, you have to run water lines, and that's harder. Anyway, it's a distributed system, and kind of the starting point for our investigation every year into the health and status of the system when we first arrive is to go to the end of the driveway to where the water comes onto the property and look at our pressure and look at if we have water. And that's where we'll also have to clean a strainer potentially. But we might just, if things kind of look good, turn it on and see if it just works. Sometimes it does. All right. So you can see what we got here. Squat down. Okay. So here's the anatomy of this. Starting from the left, water comes in, and then here is a pressure meter that tells us what our incoming pressure is, and right now it's over 50. Normally I like to see this 45. 55 is kind of an unnecessary stress of all of our piping, in my opinion. I'll be talking with Gary about that, or possibly with FID directly. This is attached to the first coarse grain strainer. Now, if there seems to be some pressure problem after this, well, one of the steps you would take is to open up. There's a valve buried here that I'm gonna have to dig out, and that is kind of a strainer cleaner. It flushes the outside when you close, you know, of that strainer, so any dirt and stuff on the strainer. Or we may have to go turn it off over where the valve is buried on the corner of Beachman's property on the other side of this driveway here. We'll have to find that and turn the water off over there so that we can pull the end off this strainer and take out the screen cleaner. But usually this is not really much trouble. Nothing huge gets up here. There's a strainer by where the line from Farmers Irrigation crosses the road up there. You're familiar with that one on the left as you're walking towards town. That's probably got the same size screen as this, and so, you know, we're not seeing gravel and shit plugging that. It's probably not going to be a problem. The thing that you might need to do is flush it, but the most important feature here is to note that you have water pressure, and we have a little too much, probably 10 psi too much in my opinion. Then after that, we go through some connectors and a union to this valve, which is the master valve. This is the first one that goes into our system, and right now it is closed. And as a result of that, if we cheat and look ahead, you can tell a second pressure valve that, okay, I inadvertently was maneuvering the phone and held down the button that calls Siri. This is kind of system pressure, if you will. When this valve in the middle is turned on, the water flows through this filter, which has kind of this Y shape that these filters do. That means there's a screen that can be cleaned, and then there's the filtered path. The screen that can be cleaned is in this tube, and the filtered path goes out of the filter, and system pressure then can be measured here. There's a Y that's buried here. Part of it goes under the driveway, and the other part goes up this side of the driveway. But in here is the finest screen that we have, and this is usually if you have just low flow, even though you have pressure there, it's this screen, and this will have to be taken apart if that's the issue. But you can try cleaning it, and one way to clean it is to turn on the pressure, of course, which we'll do. This is hard to turn, so you'll be able to turn it. Whoops. This was on, and I just sprayed myself in the crotch. Almost. Okay. No, missed it. That's it. I gotta clean the lens. Okay, safety tip. Before you turn on this handle, make sure that these little handles are in the off position. Okay? Off, then on. Alright. And this turns only 90 degrees, and it only turns this way. Alright, pressure is trying to rise, which it should, because it has to fill all the pipes. They'll be compressing air in them if everything is tight. Haha, but what are the odds of everything being tight? Well, these are dripping a little bit. Probably if I turn it on and off, those little ball valves will seal, but maybe not. It's not that big a deal. I wouldn't do anything about it. It'll help keep the plant watered. All right, we seem to have stabilized at about 50. Now, more evidence that this filter is clogged would be if, okay, we got good pressure now, but when you turn on the system, this drops, but this one doesn't drop. Okay, that might mean that you have to clean this filter too. I will show you how to clean this filter, whether or not it needs it, in a separate video.